know a thing or two about her. I know she'll only make you cry. She'll let you walk the streets beside her. But when she walks, she'll pass you by. Everybody says she's looking good, and the lady knows it's understood. Strutter. Strutter. Na na na, la 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 la. Strutter. She wears her satin like a lady. She gets her way just like a child. You'll take her home and she'll say, maybe, baby. She takes you down and drives you wild. Everybody says she's looking good, and the lady knows it's understood. Strutter. Na 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 la 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 la. Strutter. Strutter. La 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 da da da. Strutter, watch out! She'll make you cry. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to BOOZHOO NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about Ojibwe language and Kiss classic music. Today, we got a very special show planned for you today. So without further ado, please welcome BOOZHOO NANABOOZHOO. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sweetie. You crushed that song. That was so good. I can't believe it. Hey, BOOZHOO, everybody. And welcome back to the show. Welcome back to BOOZHOO NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. I am NANABOOZHOO. Over here, the lovely and the talented Natasha. Ikadon BOOZHOO Inimushane. Say hello, sweetheart. BOOZHOO, everybody. Welcome back to the show. So how you guys doing? Where are you guys? Where's the BOOZHOO crew this morning?
I don't know. Is anybody watching yet?
Let me check. Click here. One concurrent viewer. That's probably us. Or it might be just one person. Hi, one person. Welcome to the show. Before we get started today, I wanted to talk a little bit about Arazuke and the role of the Arazuke Winini. You see, Arazuke is a traditional Ojibwe story, a traditional Anishinaabe story, a traditional Indian story. And it's carried on through, we like to pretend our traditional stories are carried on in the oral tradition. You know, we tell the stories, we listen to our elders tell these stories that will tell us where we come from and who we are. And now, because of the internets, you can just look up one of the old stories. And so yesterday we were talking about the Big Dipper, right? And I said, today I'm going to tell the story of the Big Dipper, how the Big Dipper came to be. Or the traditional story was something like, I don't even remember. How Fisher discovered, what did they even call it? Anyway, so I read the story of how one of the stories that has somehow lived on about how the Big Dipper was created. And I vaguely knew that they called it the Fisher Star. They called it the Ojiganong. A lot of Ojibwe people say, "Oh yeah, the Big Dipper. That's a fisher." I got a picture of a fisher here. An ojig. Ojig. It's kind of like a wild. It's kind of like a squirrel and a cat had a baby, and it's made a fisher. So the Ojibwe story of the Big Dipper has to do. Here, I'll just tell you because it's so dumb that I don't even want to. There are some stories that I think should be left to the past. Because people way back in the days of their grandfather, they had a different sense of humor. They had a different, I don't know. So here's the story as far as I understand it. Back in the days of their grandfathers, there was a little fisher who, back in the way back days, there was winter year round. And it was always cold, and it was hard to live. Nothing grew. Everybody was starving. And Fisher, he talks to a squirrel, a Jidamu, and Jidamu says, "Okay, go home. Go sit in your lodge and just start to cry. When your mother comes in, do not say anything to her. She'll ask you why you cry. Don't even talk to her. And then when your dad comes in, you tell him that you're sick of the cold and you want to bring warmth to the world." Okay. For some reason he does that, goes home, starts crying, and mom comes in. "What's the matter, little ojig?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know." Like, he doesn't say anything. Don't talk to your mom, I guess. And dad comes in and goes, "Why do you cry?" He goes, "Oh, it's so cold. I want the warmth." And so his dad goes, "You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll bring together all my buddies. We'll go out on an adventure, and we will bring the warmth to the land where things will grow and all that." So he had a big party, or a big feast, and he invited lynx. In Ojibwe we call lynx BOOZHOO. BOOZHOO. Or BOOZHOO. How do you say that? BOOZHOO, yeah. The lynx, the BOOZHOO, came, and he brought some wild rice. And then the otter, he shows up. Old Nigig, otter. Otter shows up, and he brings some hot dogs and that. And they have a big old feast. Oh, and then, of course, they invited the wolverine. Gwigwaage, the wolverine. So these four merry men got together, and they're like, "Look, I have a plan. We will climb the highest mountain, and we will go to the Skyland." The Skyland, which is interesting. Oh, good. The BOOZHOO crew is filing in. You didn't miss anything. This is a dumb story about how Fisher created the Big Dipper. But before we get started, happy Abatuse. Happy Wednesday. Abatuse. We're halfway there. We're halfway through. Anyway. So Ojig was a fisher, Anang is a star. In Ojibwe, some people call the Big Dipper the Ojiganong, the fisher star. Which, there are 7 stars in the Big Dipper, but whatever. And so Fisher says, we will go to Ishpeming. We will go to the sky. And this fits in interesting, actually, with the whole firmament idea. In Ojibwe, the word for sky generally is gijig. Mino gijigud. Sky and day, you know. But there's also this word, ishpaming. And they say it means in the sky or to be in the sky. And they'll say, like stars and whatever. But I, for one, think in the sky, ishpaming means this. Okay? Because you have to remember, before the, I don't know, it wasn't 1492. It was much more recent than that. Most people thought there was a dome over us called the firmament. And so the Ishpaming would be the place where the stars and the moon and the sun, kind of the dome. Gijig is just the sky, Anyway, Ishpaming. He goes, we will go to the Ishpaming. And we will break through the Ishpaming. And I will bring the warm weather from the other side, from the sky world. And they're like, hey, that's a really good plan. Let's do that. So they load up, they go, and they climb the highest mountain they can find. They get to the place, and this is kind of how it's written in the Google document I found. They go to the place where the sky is closest to the land. Where the sky is closest to the land. And I think people get really confused by that. I go, what do you mean? I guess the sky is 1 inch up from the land, depending how short you are, I mean, to an ant, where does the sky begin? But if it's a dome, then that makes more sense. Because the sky connects with the dome, or with the ground, all around its edges. You'd have to go to Antarctica. But anyway, so they go to Antarctica or somewhere. They climb the largest mountain they can, and they go, okay, let's break through. We're going to break through the sky, is how they talk about it. So the otter goes, hey man, I'll do it. Old Nigig says, hey man, I'm going to go and break through it. So he takes a big running start, he takes a big jump, and smacks into the sky and bounces back, and then slides all the way down the mountain. And this is why otters, sled down the mountain on their bellies, is what they say. So the otter's out. Then the old bobcat, or the lynx, he says, BOOZHOO. BOOZHOO says, look man, I'm the mighty BOOZHOO. Let me give it a try. So he jumps up, tries to smack into the sky, and he cracks it just a little bit. But he falls back because I can't do it. So then Wolverine, he's got them adamantium claws. So he jumps up there and he scratches the sky with his claws. And it breaks open. And what happens? A bunch of warm air comes through. Well, now it's just Ojig and Guigua Age. Guigua Age and Ojig. They go, come on, let's go in there. And when they go to the other side of the sky, to the sky world, it's warm, it's beautiful, there are trees, and there are many birds. So the first thing they do is like, hey man, let's set these birds free. So they open up the bird cages, and all these birds come flying through the crack in the sky. And this is where birds come from. And the fisher and the wolverine, they keep on trying to break open more and more of the sky to let more and more warm air in. And the sun and the moon are apparently below them, but the warm air is coming from the other side of the sky. And sure enough, the ice starts to melt, and the snow starts to melt, and you see flowers and grass and trees start to come alive. And it's a beautiful thing. But just then, I forget what happens. Somehow they get chased out of there. And they jump back through the hole and they come back home. And it was they opened up that hole just enough so that it could be warm half the year round. but it would still be cold half the year. But this is why we call the Big Dipper Ojiganung, because it's like a crack in the sky. Now, I don't call it the Ojiganung. I call it the Giwedananung, the North Star. And there's another story, actually, I think it's an Ojibwe story, about 7 brothers, which is a better story. 7 brothers and their like new adopted sister who kind of has a vision about him or whatever. But this is the Big Dipper. Oh, and one more thing for any little guys here today. So the Big Dipper, it looks like a swastika. This is way before Hitler and that. But that's the symbol that a lot of different cultures have, the swastika. And it refers to how the Big Dipper moves around the North Star. So Giwedananung never moves. But all the stars every night move around them. And then they move just a little bit more each day so that the constellations can tell you what season it is. And they can know like, oh, it's fishing season or whatever. And it's kind of like a big clock. Big old clock in the sky. Oh, we're on Indian time. Yeah, well, I'm on star time. What's the star date, Captain Picard? So, Ishpaming, in the sky. That's where the fisher and the wolverine and the lynx and the otter did this brave thing to bring us the warmth from the other side of the sky. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Sweetie. Yeah? Excuse me while I kiss this guy. Don't kiss, Michael. Why not? Because I get jealous. I ain't going to kiss Michael. He's got coffee breath. No, I don't. Yeah, you do. Okay, yeah, I do. All right. Anyway, I just kind of had to plow through that dumb story. Not every Adazuke Winani is a great story. Sorry, traditional storytellers. Some of your stories are really boring. I mean, that one's not that bad, I guess. Did you ever see that movie? Maybe it was a miniseries. Oh, I know what you're talking about. The one that has all the Indian stories? Yeah. There's a teenage boy. He's got to drive his grandpa to the powwow. And on the way, his grandpa tells him all the... That's where I stole the... Back in the days of the grandfathers. What was that movie called? I can't remember. But it had all these different tribes' traditional stories played out in like big budget movie. And every Indian actor you've ever seen was in it. And it's like set in the 90s kind of. So it's like a road film where grandpa and grandson go on a trip. All right, let's see who's here. Always learning. BOOZHOO, always learning. Nice to see you. Welcome back to the show. And Daniel... let's put a gold star on Always Learning's name. Okay. You get a gold star for being the first one here today. And at the end of the year, when we tally all this, you will get a check for $1 million. I mean, minus taxes and handling charges. But, if there's anything left, we will send it to you. No, we won't. Yeah, okay. And Daniel Black is here. BOOZHOO, Daniel. Sheila Eddy. Anin Niji. Anin Nij Ikwe. I call her Nij Ikwe because she's a lady, huh? Yeah, that's like your female brother. My female brother. My female buddy. Sheila. And Joseph's here. Hey, peace, Joseph. How you doing? Joseph's a bit of a hippie. How come? He's got that peace sign. He's all like, hey, bring our boys home from Vietnam. They're back. Okay. And Jim Dunn's here. Hey, BOOZHOO, Jim Dunn. Jim's here, sweetie. Me no geek a jab, Jim. All right. And Luke Page, good morning. Brian Souls, Great show yesterday. Michael and Natasha, you are rock stars. You hear that? You guys are rock stars. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Who said that? That was Brian Souls, the Soul Man. Thanks, Brian. And hey, Weesanee's back. Weesanee. She says, hit that like button, crew. Hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. There's always one guy, and my cousin Missy wants to beat him up. Missy's a middle-aged lady, who still thinks she's like some tough res girl. And she gets really mad at people who don't like our show. But is she in Florida? In Florida? Is she in Hawaii now?
I want to say they don't leave until the 18th.
Really? The 18th?
I don't know why I'm thinking that, but yeah.
So maybe she'll stop by. And Ella's here. Hey, how you doing, Ella? Nice to see you. Ella's here, sweetie.
BOOZHOO, Ella!
All right. So we got the dumb story out of the way. Arazuke Winini. But I got to slide in just a little bit of gravy.
Gravy?
I got to ladle a little gravy, a little truth, a little, do you have dry biscuits? Let me pour some gravy on them. So the gravy this morning is that in our old stories, you can tell that at least the thinking was the sky was something you could break through. What can you break through? Glass or whatever it's made out of. And I promise I'm not going to spend a whole show talking about conspiracy theories. But back in the days of the grandfathers, there was a program called Project Fishbowl that the U.S. government, they went down to Antarctica and they shot up a bunch of missiles into the sky. And people who kind of believe in the firmament and believe the government knows about it suggest that they were trying to blow a hole through the firmament, which is nuts. Because if you believe in a firmament, you think there's endless water above it. So, unless you want another flood, don't be breaking a hole in the firmament. But anyway, it had no effect. They couldn't break through the firmament, even with missiles and bombs and whatnot. But it was called Project Fishbowl. There was Project Fishbowl and Project High Jump and Project Paperclip. These are all, these aren't secrets. They're not talked about much. But I'll say just this much. For this part of Ojibwe history, people say, well, Columbus, he was the greatest man in the world. He discovered America. And when I was a little guy, they always said, oh yeah, Columbus, he wanted to prove the earth was round. That was a big part of the Columbus story. And so, he knew the truth, but everyone else in 1491 thought, those dummies from the past, thought the earth was flat. So who's going to prove it? By finding a northwest passage to India, as the story goes. You go north and west to India. And then what? Where was I going with this? Oh, so people always like to say, you're a flat earther? That's so dumb. People have known the earth was round for thousands of years. It's like, well, maybe a few philosophers like Copernicus, if he was a real person, might have suggested as much. There's old paintings of people standing around, globes. Not earth globes, but just round balls, I guess. And but you couldn't prove it until you had rocket technology. And that's why the 1940s were so important to the world. Because with World War II and the Nazis, you know how they always say, oh, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. Because a rocket scientist is the smartest person in the world. Somebody who can build a rocket. Why? Don't know. But so in the 40s, when all the Nazi scientists came over to work for the United States, Project Paperclip, they saved all these Nazi scientists from, justice by hiring them at NASA. And so they built these rockets and they went to Antarctica, which is a big ice ring around the circular flat plane we live on. And they were going to shoot rockets into the firmament. Project Fishbowl. And high jump was to get on top of the ice ridge that's around everything. And so the rocket, and actually going to the moon, was really important to them because it would prove that the Earth was round. Because you can't just take somebody's word for it because they're smart. You'd have to leave the Earth, turn around, take a picture, and come back and go, here you go. See, I told you it was a globe. But whether they knew it or they discovered it when they tried to, the first time they tried to shoot a rocket farther than they ever had before, they would have hit the dome. And then that's where all the space race and all the lies started. In the firmament. So you can kind of see there's like an ice ridge around the edges. Those are tall ice, and there are photos of that. Oh, this is Antarctica. It's just a little island or something. It's like, nah, it's a big old ice ridge. But okay. Jessica's here with her rabbit emoji. Jessica knows about rabbit holes. She's a Wabooz. Wabooz. That's a rabbit and Ojibwe. And Jim's here, and he's got 3 Waboos. Jim's here, sweetie. Hey, BOOZHOO, Jim. But so yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about conspiracies. And I do want to say though, good news. Yesterday we talked about all that so-called forbidden stuff on YouTube. Oh, they're gonna censor you. You can't even say the word vaccination or whatever. It's like, nope. If you're a puppet, you can say whatever you want. Because if we ever get a strike, if we get like a copyright strike or something, they tell you by the next morning. Yeah, by the way, that was copyrighted. You're not supposed to do that? Huh, sweetie? That's right. So what do you think? Do you believe in aliens or not? Do I believe in aliens like Steven? Yeah. I mean, if there's no outer space, there can't be any aliens. Well, there could still be what we call gray aliens. I just don't think they live on another planet out in the black vastness of vacuum. I don't believe that stars are huge suns far away. All exactly the same distance away. Because they all seem to, well, maybe not the same size. Who knows? But I don't believe in space, so I don't believe in a spaceman that crashed on Earth. Which really bums me out, to tell you the truth. Really? I went through a period when I stopped believing in outer space. It was almost like a grief in a way. Really? Yeah, I mean, so much of my life, so much of my imagination. My favorite guitar player was Ace Frehley, the spaceman. One of the first movies I saw in a theater with my parents was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's how old I am, you guys. I was already like a, 18-year-old or something when E.T. came out. But I grew up on Star Trek, Star Wars, of course. I mean, it was my generation that was, I think I was 12 when the first Star Wars came out. I didn't know if the stormtroopers were people or robots. That's right. Then that first movie, there's no way to know. Yeah. But all around me, and then I just love gray aliens. So when I stopped believing, when I found evidence to make me go, what? Oh, you mean that's all nonsense. Oh, jeez. I felt sad. It took me a while.
Were you sad because you thought you'd never go on a space ride?
No, because I probably would never have, like I always say, well, if aliens come and they give you an opportunity to get in their ship, would you go with them? There's no way I would have done that. Too afraid.
Yeah, me too.
Don't want to get probed. I got too many personal stuff. Don't probe me. And no, that's not being homophobic. Would you guys settle down? Just because I don't want to get probed by a little gray alien doesn't mean I'm full of hate. That's me.
Nobody's calling you homophobic.
Yeah, but they're thinking it. I can hear your thoughts.
You cannot.
Nah, I'm just kidding. So I probably wouldn't have gone on a joyride through the galaxy anyway. But I don't know. There was something I just loved about the idea of Star Trek and Star Wars and aliens. I don't know. It took me a while to kind of, be okay with the idea. So what? Okay. Well, I guess the good news is I can stop worrying about alien abduction.
Well, but you can still be abducted by aliens. Maybe they're from another dimension.
Yeah, what if they're from the other side of the sky? What if they're from another... You ever think about this? Maybe gray aliens and flying saucers are real, but they didn't come from a spinning globe planet, millions of miles away. Maybe they come from something like this that's right next door. There could be all kinds of little bubble worlds sitting in the vastness of water. And our Bible just talks about this one. But maybe they did find a way to, fly in between, Or some people think they're just demons. Maybe demons don't have to have goat legs and horns and all that. Maybe they could be a little gray, genderless, emotionless beings.
I heard it said once that they're like automatons. Like human robot types.
Okay. Little fleshy robots.
Yeah, like an advanced technology of robots.
Could be. Artificial intelligence and all that. Could just be, a bunch of children who are brainwashed by the government to scare people dressed up in costumes and they just go walking around, let themselves get seen. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Weesney is here and she says, I just sent Michael a friend request on Facebook. Michael, are you going to become friends with Weesney? Yeah, I'll do that. Let me wait till after the show. He's got to wait till after the show, but then you can be the best of friends. Weesney is going to be your best friend, okay? I thought you were my best friend. I barely know you. Yeah, okay. You can be his best friend. I've met the guy. I got nothing against Michael. He's a good guitar player. I'll give him that much. He can draw aliens really well. If that's important to you. But, I don't know. You're not the most entertaining person I've ever met. I'm not? Nah. You're kind of a house body, You need to get out there. Why don't you start a new band? I'm kind of sick of bars. Yeah. Michael doesn't want to be in a band because he don't want to hang out in bars. See, that's what I mean. You're no fun. I know. I stopped being fun when I stopped drinking. Yeah. Word to the wise, young children watching the show. If you want to be fun, you gotta drink. That's what all the elders told us. Make sure you booze up. Make sure you get all boozed up before you go out, because then you'll be fun.
Don't say that.
What?
Don't tell kids you need to drink to have fun.
Nah, I'm just kidding. When you become a drinker, sometimes then it becomes a crutch where you don't enjoy anything unless you are drinking. I remember that when I was a boozer. Me and my friends would get around and, I remember this one time in particular, we were all just bummed out. We're sitting around in a circle. Nobody had anything to say. think a TV was on or something. We're just kind of sitting around, no beer. Then somebody brings in a 12-pack. Suddenly the whole place lights up. Nobody's even drunk yet. But we're joking around, telling stories. Somebody thinks, hey, let's pull out a guitar, sing some songs. And it was like a party 10 minutes later. Why? Because somebody brought in some beer. But it wasn't the beer, it was us. We were boring because we were addicted to alcohol. Anyway. La la la. Michael is going to finally find out what Weesenie is not a her. Oh, brother. Weesenie is not even a girl. Why do I think he's a girl? I have no idea. Because you don't like guys. I like guys. Guys are my best friends. Oh, yeah. Well, then good for you. Sorry, Weesenie. I didn't mean to misgender you. Weesenie says, it'll be entertaining. Okay. Daniel Black, don't ruin the illusion. That's right. I'm not going to ruin the illusion. Of what? I don't know. The illusion of space? Sweetie, do you think it's okay for people, like a lot of people, they'll hear the news and they'll go, well, what difference does it make? Whether the earth is round or spinning or not. What was that, do you just let them go back to, yeah, okay. And just pretend that you believe you're on a spinning ball too?
Honestly, in my experience,
Yeah.
people get annoyed with you if they don't believe it, they don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, that's kind of true. So am I going on and on about it for?
Because you're just riffing, you don't know what else to talk about.
Oh yeah, that's probably why. Riffing. These comedians have stolen a guitar term. Oh, I'm riffing. When you riff in guitar, it's when you're just kind of improvising. Like the other guy may just put down 3 chords. D, A, G, D, A, G, G, D, A, G, G, D, A, G, G. And then you come up with a riff. Right. And that's how songs are written. You riff. But now comedians are all like, oh, I was riffing. Just talking nonsense until something funny came out. So that's what I'm sort of doing. You know what else they stole?
What's that?
Writers. When I was in college, writers, they have to find their voice. Find your voice as a writer. It's like, what are you talking about? Writing is, that's the one thing you can do with no voice. You're writing it down. Nobody has to hear it. You have to read it. It is writing. There's no voice. But they stole that from singers. Because singers, you don't really learn how to sing. Babies sing. But most of us are, we sing and we hate our voice forever and we're very self-conscious. And then you kind of stumble on to, oh, okay, this is my range. This is kind of my expression. And, you find your voice. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all.
Ah, sweetie, I love that song.
I know you do. But you're just going to find your voice. Oh, okay. I'm not even going to worry about whether or not it's a good voice or a bad voice. That's just what my voice sounds like. You find it. And then you can sing. You can always sing, but then you get comfortable with singing because you found your voice. So I'm just riffing and finding my voice.
Yeah, okay.
All right. What else we got here going on? India Ojibwe Language and Culture Podcast. Weesenie says, be forewarned, Michael. Michael, listen up. She's warning you. Or he's warning you. They are warning you. Be forewarned, Michael. I have a crude sense of humor. I think everything is to be made fun of. They have a crude sense of humor, Michael. I should forewarn Wisani that I almost never respond to messages on Facebook. Oh yeah, he's a really not good friend to have on Facebook. By the way, Wisani. Michael's really lazy and doesn't communicate very well. Really annoys Missy because Missy's always trying to talk to him, and he'll get back to her in like a day with a one sentence, response. You're famous for that. Ha ha. That'll be a response to somebody's half-page letter. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry. Is that because you're so famous? That's what I tell people, but no, I'm just too lazy. Yeah. So anyway, Daniel Black says, ditto. Everything is fair game. Crude humor. Everything is fair game. I kind of like humor that's irreverent. That makes fun of things that people find sacred. Like sacred stories of the Ojibwe. Or how about this? I almost put on a video. Hey, and if there's any Line 3 protesters here, let me know. I have some questions. But I almost put up a video of the Line 3 protest kind of south of Bemidji here a couple weeks ago. There was like 1,000 people here. They were holding banners. They were marching down, taking up the whole street for 1 mile. And it said, stop Line 3. Stop Line 3. And what people, if you don't know, Line 3 is an oil pipeline that goes underneath the Mississippi River. And it's replacing a oil pipeline that's been there for 50 years. Nothing's happened yet to the 50-year-old one. But they don't want them replacing the oil pipeline or something. And so I was watching the video of the protesters. And I once again marveling, I go, who are all these people? I don't recognize anyone. Except once in a while you'll see my cousin Mary. Or Michael's cousin Mary. But Mary's awesome. I'm not throwing you under the bus here, Mary. You're an elder who travels the whole country. Fighting, defending, not entertaining, but educating people about treaty rights. Mary Lyons is a rock star. But the rest of her gang, when I look at these protests, I'm like, it looked like a pride parade for middle-aged white women. Really? Yeah. All these just chunky white ladies. I mean, I'm sure there were Indians there. I saw a lot of, ribbon skirts and whatever. Holding up banners, marching, and shouting stuff like, water is life. Stop Line 3. Treaty rights. Water is life. Stop Line 3. I'm like, okay. But, for all this attention you're gathering, I am still clueless on, okay, what treaty right are you talking about? Did we sign a treaty with the U.S. government? Is Line 3 even a U.S. pipeline? I don't know. I thought it was Canadian. But in any case, so is there a treaty where they promise never to put pipelines on the land? And they interviewed this one guy. They were like, okay, where are you from? And what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm retired and I'm from Pennsylvania. I came here to defend treaty rights. And the guy goes, what do you do? He goes, oh, I'm retired, but I worked for 20 years as an IT worker at the University of Pennsylvania. Educated Chamokaman, took time and money, flew out here or drove or somehow, he used a bunch of gas to get here, and then is, fighting for our treaty rights. And I'm like, okay, what treaty right? How could they make an agreement that they wouldn't lay down oil pipelines Back in the days before they had oil pipelines. So are they actually not honoring a treaty right? And what's wrong with pipelines? Everybody acts like acts. Now I sound like Barack Obama. Everybody acts. I don't think Obama ever talked like that. No, but you know how like some people can't say. Anyway. Everybody acts like it's just a foregone conclusion that oil pipelines are bad. Do they break a lot or something? Is oil bad? No. I mean, it's probably me. I'm probably just not very educated. But Line 3 protesters, if you're going to get out there and make noise, you should educate us on what the point is. Because instead, you're just inviting a lot of us to go, what? Would you get off the road? People are trying to get to work. You know? Oh, it must be nice to be able to get together 1,000 people from out of state. I mean, are you guys being paid by Soros or something? You know? If this pipeline is got a good chance of polluting the Mississippi River, I'd be with you. I'd go, okay, don't do that. You know, is it safer to deliver oil by truck or train? You know, what's next? If you get rid of this pipeline, I mean, are you also against sewer lines? You're going to come to my house and pull up my sewer? So it just begs a lot of questions. You know, stop Line 3. Is it just that particular oil pipeline, or is it the thousands of oil pipelines? You know? Are you also against the, and I might be with you on this, is the oil drilling rigs in North Dakota? Talk about destroying a state. Oh no, it's economic, blah, blah, blah. Oh, jeez. North Dakota used to look like, the set of Dances with Wolves. And now it's like the set of Dallas. It's all oil pipelines, and, big rigs, and it's just become a horrible place. But, I don't know. And then you go, okay, why are we shipping oil from the Middle East if we got so much of it just underneath the ground here? Or up in Canada that we can, I don't know. I almost never drive. I mean, I drive probably, I'm going to say, I'm pulling the environmentalist card. I probably drive less than 2 miles a week. The only places I go are Walmart and the grocery store in my pickup. Otherwise, I just walk. I live, right in town. And I don't have any kids. I got a cart around to school or anything. So, I just changed the oil in my car. It had been 2 years, and I'd only put on like 1,000 miles or something. So, I mean, it's not like I'm using that much oil and gas for my car, but I live in Minnesota, and I heat with oil or gas or whatever. So I probably use a lot of it in the winter heating my house. I'm not saying I'm the greatest, friend of the environment, but, if you want to, if there was a political movement to get rid of cars, gas cars, I might be, you could probably talk me into that. Okay, no more cars. Gas is now going to be $20 a gallon. And so, figure it out. $20 a gallon, you're going to have to start making some decisions. And, sorry, you can't just run down to the cities every other week to go to the Mall of America or whatever you do. Bring back the horses, I say. Were they better for the environment? I assume so. Yeah. I mean, I could be talked into getting rid of cars eventually. You know, radical, stupid ideas like that. No more ambulances. You know, let's bring back the cops on horses. You know, but you know, you're protesting one pipeline. It seems like pretty reasonable to replace a 50-year-old pipeline before that thing decays and breaks. And then here's my other question. So, remember when when that old the Gulf of Mexico thing happened? Oh, and they had that huge oil spill for like 3 days. Yeah, the whole Gulf of Mexico gets engulfed in, you know, oil. People are going down there trying to scrub up the seagulls. I don't know how they caught a seagull to like wash it, but I asked somebody about who lived down there recently. I go, well, what's it like now? Is is everything dead or? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, you know, since the oil spill thing, did that have really big consequences on everything? He goes, no, it's fine. I mean, oil just settled to the bottom. They're still drilling in there. I'm like, what? I thought that was like kind of the end of the world when that happened. So I'm not even sure how dangerous spilled oil is. I know everybody, don't be stupid. Can you imagine if they spilled oil? It's like, yeah, that would suck. Polluting, you know. Has it happened before? He goes, yeah, it happens all the time. Oh, is that why we can't drink water out of the rivers? Well, that sucks, I guess. Is that going to screw up the well? I mean, what are we talking about? We need to be educated. Don't just screech. You know. You can't just get your way if you don't really understand the issue. Okay, here's Jessica. She's going to fill me in. Jessica says, it's the Line 3 pipeline because of where they want to place it and its proximity to a water source. If the river gets polluted out, will affect thousands of people downstream. Yeah, it's the Mississippi, right? And quite frankly, if you go to St. Cloud, which is a 2.5-hour drive from here, the Mississippi River is disgusting. It's already polluted. You know, I don't know what, I mean, people just, I don't know, they dump stuff in there. Pours right into it. So, I don't like that, but, I mean, where isn't there a water source in northern Minnesota? It's the land of 10,000 lakes. You know? Weesanie says, when, not if. Okay. Just go booze. Exactly. Also, just today, there's news that drilling fluid from the construction was released into Willow River. It's being investigated. So even just the construction is putting chemicals into water. All right. So the rivers are getting polluted by having oil pipelines. And the rivers are already polluted. But they can be polluted worse. Okay. That sucks. Granted. I agree. I don't think the ladies and whoever else is down there protesting are wrong. Those waters are racing lands. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of feel like we're being played. Like they're sort of touching certain buttons. These are the sacred racing lands. It's okay. Have you ever seen what Leech Lake looks like after everybody leaves the... we used to have this thing called the Eel Pout Festival. It was an ice fishing festival. And there would be literally thousands of ice houses, people fishing, cars. It looked like a city on the lake. And after a couple of weeks, everybody goes away. And there's so much litter and just whatever. And every boat that uses an outboard, any kind of motor, just spills all kinds of oil and gas into the lake. And I'm not saying that's good, but, you know, they say stuff, hey, this is sacred land, it's racing. And, you know, so we have to stop this one particular pipeline. I mean, how come nobody said anything this last 200 years? But in any case, like, even so, how is it a treaty right? You know, we don't have a real border. You know, they still put interstate highways through the reservations. What about all the sewage? You know, what about all the homes that are built around every lake? And there's sewage that never gets treated, just goes into the ground. Doesn't that pollute the lakes too? And it kind of comes back to this idea that our people, are we, is the earth here for us, or are we here for the earth? I get the impression that environmentalists think humans are bad and the earth would be better off if we didn't live. And what are we going to do about heat? You know, if we don't have, is it even an option not to have oil pipelines? Unless you just don't have oil. And fine, I don't love oil, you know, but, you know, are we going to be any better off if we deliver all this oil by truck or train? We've had some big old train accidents up here where the oil spilled out and caught on fire. There's black smoke going up in the air. You think it's the end of the world. And then eventually they get it out and, you know, life goes on. In fact, there's even a place up here that had wood treatment. We had a wood treatment plant in Cass Lake. Superfund site, they called it. And so they treated lumber up here. And something from the lumber treatment thing seeped into the soil. And I know personally 2 people who got cancer and died very young who lived in that neighborhood. And it's kind of the thing everybody in Cass Lake knows. Oh, don't live down by the Superfund site. Get cancer because it's so toxic. And, you know, sure enough, they built an apartment building right there. But, you know, there have been lawsuits. Come clean up the Superfund site. People are getting cancer from drinking the polluted water or whatever. And, you know, the water's polluted anyway with fluoride. I don't know. Okay. A large portion of the decolonized diet. What are we talking about here? I don't think okay, hold on. Decolonized diet. Just couple booze. Well, here's the thing that is a play. There are certain environmental groups with political ties, and I do feel that they take advantage by trying to make it an indigenous issue, while they would turn a blind eye to any other issues that affect indigenous people. Yeah, are they just using us? I mean, there's some kind of disconnect. If you drive from Pennsylvania to protest an oil pipeline and then claim that this is the issue that you care, because not all Indian people are on board with this. A lot of Indian people work for the pipeline. This is what I hate about the news and stuff. People who claim to be a Native American leader, like a certain somebody. Native Americans don't have leaders. We're not one group that, you know, elected a, you know, oh, he's the chairman of the tribe. It doesn't mean a thing. That's the guy who works with the U.S. government to hand out checks. And he's voted in by his family. So whoever has the biggest family gets to be the leader of the community. You know, there's no such thing as a Native American leader. We're not following anybody. Unless you think Joe Biden is a leader. You know. So, where was I going with this? Oh, so Indian people aren't unified with, hey, stop, this is our land. This is our sacred racing land. You know, only until the water stops to flow and the wind blows and the grass grows. You know, I will fight no more forever. You know, Nobody's speaking on behalf of all, even Leech Lakers. You know, there's probably just as many, on both sides as outside of the reservation. I'm kind of just totally indifferent, to tell you the truth. I mean, I kind of get a kick out of protesters. I don't want to be part of it, but I like to watch and kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would never be involved in a protest march. Really? Well, I was in once. I protested the Iraq War when I was in college. Me and a bunch of hippies went and marched on the street. No war, blood for oil. No blood for oil. No blood for oil. And the cops came by. It's like, okay, all right, you guys got about another 10 minutes. And then after that, this place is going to be closed. So if you're still here, we'll arrest you. So you might want to, work out your rides and who's going to bail you out. Super nice to us. But I was like, oh, really? You're going to arrest us? See ya. And I went home. And I walked home. I was going to be part of the problem by driving my car. I'm going to start a rally that's anti-rally. No more rallies. No more rallies. Quit protesting in the streets. And get thousands of people. We say no. No more. No more rallies. No more rallies. Get your kid to come by. Make a sign. No more protesting. No more. I mean, you can protest. I mean, do what you want. I don't care. Protest. It's just weird to have a protest post-Trump. Like I kind of understood all the protests for the last 4 years. People kind of had Trump derangement syndrome. Are really mad. So they all get together. Go, oh, he's literally Hitler. But no, he's gone. And so, Jessica says, but you'll never hear news from the... Wait. Yes, politicians play the identity politics game. Yeah, that's what it is. And then that's literally all you see in the news of Indigenous people. Yeah, exactly. They're all water protectors because that's good for politics. I know, they just totally stereotype us that we're all water protectors, we're all environmentalists, we're all, lefties. I try to remind people, it's like, there's a lot of red in Indian blood. Because Indians are hunters and gun owners. And, personal freedom. We all know what happened the last time the U.S. government came to Wounded Knee and disarmed the population. It came in 2 weeks later and killed off everybody. So not a lot of people are that on board with the democratic agenda. Also, Indian people are pretty rural. We're pretty... Even if not everybody's a Christian, everybody has a grandma or an auntie or a good, we all know and love certain people who are Bible-thumping Christian conservatives. I know some Indian people who read that Bible like it is word for word literal, which I'm starting to think it is too. But, but the media will never portray Indian people like that. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. They're listing the news of Indigenous. They're all water protectors because that's good for politics. But you'll never hear news from the res. It will never become a national headline when an Indian girl goes missing. Well, there's that too. So, yeah, all the missing and murdered Indigenous women. I don't even want to bring it up, but I'll just bring it up. The epidemic of child abuse in all its forms. I don't even know the statistic, but little Indian girls are, at the top of that list of the most horrible things And people outside of the res don't want to say a thing because then they'll be accused of being critical of Indian men. But we have a real problem with a certain population of Indian men who are not good men, who are the worst kind of person. But that's not news. You know, they don't show that. You don't show the drug addicted. Oh, here's one. I remember when YouTube first came out. I was like, oh, let's check this out. I wonder if there's anything about onagam here, or as it's actually pronounced, onagam. We have a little Indian community, and I was working at a school, and when YouTube first came out, you kind of, you're searching stuff. It was before anybody had their name in YouTube, but you could search just keywords like Bemidji. So I put in onagam. There were 3 videos. I went, cool, what's this? First one, oh, hey, I know that kid. He's a 7th grader in my class. What's he doing? Oh, he's shooting a sawed-off shotgun. And he's at a party with adults, and there's guns and alcohol and marijuana and little kids, and it looks like hell. It looks just like the most depraved, sad, tragic, just the worst environment to raise a child in. And he was technically still a child. He's a 7th grader. And a dangerous 7th grader. I think he's in prison now. They're not going to show that on the news. Yeah, by the way, we do have a gun problem if 7th graders are getting their hands on sawed-off shotguns. It's not a gun problem. We have a parenting problem. You think it's okay to, that not only are you not protecting your kids from that kind of thing, you so don't notice fault with it that you let it be filmed and put on TV. I was probably at your house. I was probably at his mom's house is the other thing, because I knew the whole family. It was probably her party. I have seen the worst. Everyone's like, oh yeah, oh thank goodness for grandmothers. Grandmothers will save the Indian people. It is our grandmothers who raise the children and keep them safe. It's like, you grandmas are doing a terrible job. You can't raise 9 kids on your own. And turning a blind eye to the behavior of your kid who just had her 3rd kid when she's still not married. Oh, it's okay. I'll raise the babies. You go on, have fun. Yeah, it's the worst. And I'm just scratching the surface here, you guys. Sweetie, you just went down a really dark path. Yeah, I know. How did I go down here? Are you okay? No, I'm crabby. Why am I so crabby, you guys? Yeah, no, I have nothing against the water protectors. Actually, the water protectors are the best of us. Because there's a bunch of losers around here who don't know how to raise their kids. And the kids are suffering for it. And that's... I start thinking about it and I get all tore up. LS says, they're messing up the environment here in Canada with the tar sands and many people are getting sick. Are they getting sick from like drinking the water and that? Yeah, I mean, you can you can get cancer just from the environment. I mean, it's horrible. Joe 411. That's the 411. I think that's a police thing. What's your location? I'm in Bemidji, right between Leech Lake and Red Lake. And so Mississippi starts here. It starts in a little place we call Lake George, or Itasca. Lake Itasca is a lake. And it comes up through Bemidji. And in fact, Bemidji Gamug, the name of our lake in the town, Bemidji Gamug means Lake of the Crossing Waters, because the Mississippi goes into it and then comes out and crosses this lake. And it goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. But it's already polluted by St. Cloud. I mean, I don't know. It just, as a city boy or as a country boy going to the city, I saw it in St. Cloud and I went, ugh, gross. What are they doing to the river? I wouldn't swim in there. You know, three-eyed fish swimming around, you know. Because there's a lot of paper plants and wood plants and, I don't know, just the world. I'm kind of surprised that we're not already just so polluted that it, you know, what difference does it make? Brian says, Mike, have you ever heard of Silas Souls and his role in the Sand Creek Massacre? Mike, have you ever heard of Silas Souls and his role in the Sand Creek Massacre? No, I don't know anything about the Sand Creek Massacre. No, don't know the Sand Creek. I know Sand Creek. But what's the Sand Creek Massacre? Joseph, wildfires near Bemidji. Morning news. Yeah, it totally smells of smoke here, huh, sweetie?
Yeah, I thought it was from that guy last night, but it's all over town.
Yeah, I got just annoyed with my neighbor because he was burning his garbage. And well, I assume it was his garbage because he made a little campfire, but it was all smoke. I'm like, how come white people never know how to make a campfire? But so he makes this little fire and it's just tons of smoke. And I wanted to yell out, hey, dummy, use dry wood. Use lots of kindling. You can't just put a bunch of whatever you have. It's because it went right into our house. You know, we don't have air conditioning because of the environment. And so all the windows are open and all the smoke just came in, stunk up the whole house. I didn't say anything. But then I woke up this morning, cats, you know, wakes me up. And the first thing I smell is all the smoke. And I kind of pull Bagheera into my face to say, is that smell coming from your fur? And it wasn't the fur, it was just all over the house. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's from those wildfires just north of here. It's just a few miles northwest of here. And they were like taking planes and helicopters into the lake to try to put it out. Did you hear if it got out yet? I get my news from the BOOZHOO crew.
Yeah.
Isn't 9:14 already?
Yeah, you've been going on and on about this stuff.
How is that possible? I feel like I've been talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you've been talking for 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Hikes. Do you want to get up here and say hi?
Yeah. Why don't you let me get up there so I don't sound so hateful?
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, you guys. I got distracted. And I think I'm in a weird mood. All right, up next, the less crabby, more agreeable, less hateful, the lovely and talented Natasha. But first, here's a song that Natasha and Michael sang. And Miigwech Bizendawiyeg, thank you for listening to me spew my hate. And I'll see you again. Wait, let me pull that up.
Out on the street for a living, pictures only begun. Ooh, got you under their thumb.
Hit it!
Bum bada bum bada bum bada ba ba bum. Ba bada 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 bum bada bum bada bum bada ba ba bum. Ba bada bada bada. Out on the street for a living, bitches only begun. Her day is sown in madness, got you under their thumb. Ooh, black diamond. Ooh, black diamond.
Seems to fall on the city, seems to follow you too. And though you don't ask for pity, there's nothing that you can do. Ooh, black diamond. Ooh, black diamond.
Bum bada bum bada bum bada ba ba bum. Bada 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 bum bada bum bada bum bada ba ba bum. Bada 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 bum bada bum bada bum bada ba ba bum.
Pictures only begun.
Bada 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 bum
Her day is
bada
so
bum bada bum bada ba ba bum.
got you under their
Bada 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 bum.
black diamond. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Bum.
Ooh, black diamond.
Oh, wow.
Black diamond. Hi, everybody. Have you cooled down a little bit?
I'm just so angry at everybody and everything.
Yeah. Why don't you have some coffee?
Okay.
How you guys doing? Why don't you have some black medicine water? You'll calm down.
You think coffee is going to calm me down?
Yeah. Have your third cup of caffeine and settle down. Hi, everybody. No blood for oil. No blood for oil. Or whatever. Stop line 3. Stop line 3. La-dee-dee-dee. So, hi, everyone. So good to see you. Hey, look. Matt Young is here. BOOZHOO, Matt. Welcome to the show. Matt says, there are no political solutions to spiritual problems. There are no political solutions to spiritual problems, honey.
It's political. You know, that's actually really deep.
It is, huh? This is a spiritual problem. Everything's a spiritual problem with me. But yeah. I guess part of me that sort of rolls my eyes at political protest is that I just don't believe it's ever going to work. I mean, I don't have any faith in the political system. I don't think it's going to help. You know, I give up. You know, la la la. Jessica says, so true, Matt. I mean, because that's really, if you want to back up a little bit, I mean, it's hard to connect completely, but our spiritual problems going on are way more important than our political problems. It's like, hey, give me my rights. It's like, all right. Yeah, I'm not sure what I want to say about that. Except that my hat's falling off. All right, enough of that. I'm not going to have my headset on.
Okay.
It was just sort of a looks anyway. So, hi everybody. If you're new to the show, my name is Natasha. And in Ojibwe, we call me, or I would say, I can't even talk. Natasha Nindijana Cause. Nindijana Cause. Today is Abatuse. We are halfway through the week, or Wednesday. And Ella has got some hearts in her eyes. I was learning, BOOZHOO, I was learning says, 7:51 p.m. Tuesday fire was contained. Oh, good. And evacuations lifted. Okay, so last night at 7:51, the fire was contained.
Okay. When are they going to contain the smoke?
I don't know. It's probably just leftover. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Hey, Daniel Black is here. Daniel Black says, wash the car, cut the hedge. No, I'm crewed up. Daniel's crewed up. Wow, you already did cut the hedges and wash your car? Daniel Black's one of those guys like, well, I better get all my work done before it gets too hot outside. So he gets up just early. I bet. You know, Daniel Black, early risers rule the world. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So, way to go. I'm always impressed with early risers. I kind of, because we come from a long line of fishermen, that, a lot of us are early risers. And in fact, here we go, not to get totally off the subject, but a little bit. In the Anishinaabe way, they tell us we should get up before the sun comes and put out our tobacco. In fact, sweetie, why don't you, would you mind teleporting me outside? I want to put out some tobacco.
Yeah, but the sun's been up for hours.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so in the Indian way, the best way is to get up before the sun's up, go outside, put out your tobacco, and say a prayer to the Great Spirit, and then come in and have some coffee. But even if you don't get up early, it's still okay to go outside and put out some tobacco. So, sweetie, would you mind locking on my coordinates and teleporting me outside?
Yeah, sure. All right, hold on. I'm going to lock onto your coordinates, and I'm going to teleport you out to that old country road.
Country road, teleport me there. Nah.
All right, hang on. One to teleport. Hello?
Hi, sweetie, it's Natasha.
Oh, hi, honey. Did you make it there okay?
Yeah, I made it here in one piece.
Okay. Just give me a call when you want me to pick you up.
All right.
Over and out.
Over and out. Bloop. So, let me grab a little, get a little asema, a little tobacco. And, so yeah. Get you manadu. Taka. Otapanamanniwi asema. Great Spirit, please accept my tobacco.
Yeah, okay, sweetie.
Oh, brother. Hi, Kitty Manadu. What you doing?
Oh, I was just sitting here listening to your prayers. I always listen to your prayers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kitty Manadu.
Hello, BOOZHOO crew. Welcome back to the show.
Well, they've been here the whole time. You are the one who just showed up.
Oh, then welcome me back.
What can I do for you?
No, the important thing is, what can I do for you, my daughter?
Oh, I was just going to give you some tobacco and say a little prayer.
All right, you say a prayer, and I will listen.
Okay, thanks. So I just said, Great Spirit, please accept my tobacco. And it's just a little offering. There's lots of ways you can offer. It's not like the Great Spirit can't just make tobacco for himself. It's a gesture that tells him that it's just a nice thing to do. Okay, so I got some tobacco, and I might say something like, "Get you manadu. We do gawishin. Help me. Help me to understand. Help me to be, help me to be a good part to the solution, or I don't want to just be part of the chorus of hate, when it comes to all these issues, all the stuff that's in the media everywhere. Every day there's a new thing to be angry about, whether it's standing with Standing Rock or standing with murdered and missing Indigenous women, or fighting Line 3 or not fighting Line 3. Sometimes it just seems like there's, a never-ending trail of problems that we can complain about and, cry at the government over. But I don't know if I ever see anything get better or change. It always changes, but Has there ever been an issue where he went, oh, it's a good thing we protested the Iraq War because now we put an end to that? Did it matter? I don't know. But anyway, the spiritual solution that I'm asking for, I'm not praying that you kill all the oil men. I'm not sure what exactly, if the water protectors got their way, what would happen. If all oil would just go away, disappear. And I'm not so arrogant to think I have the solution. So I'm not asking you to do a certain thing, because what do I know? Maybe there's some good that comes out of what seems to be bad. I don't know. So I guess what I'm asking for is, please give me wisdom. Nabakuin. Give me love. Saka Idiwin. Our words from yesterday. And help me to be a positive person for whoever needs it. And I also want to say, please help NanaBOOZHOO not be so angry in the morning all the time. He gets crabby after an hour or so for some reason. And I know it's because he cares and that he would rather get angry than get sad. But please be with NanaBOOZHOO. And thank you for Michael, the greatest guitar player ever. If I wasn't with NanaBOOZHOO, I would totally snag Michael because he's the best. What a great guy. Thank you for bringing Michael Lyons into the world. Because he's so cute. You guys are getting the joke. Anyway, Miigwech Bizendawiye Gitchi Manadu. Thank you for listening, Great Spirit. Apayenge. And, back in the days, or even today sometimes, you'll see guys, they might just put that tobacco in their pipe and smoke a pipe. Sometimes they say, when the prayers go up, the blessings come down. Or I think, who was it that was saying, Papa Wagosh or somebody was like, put your tobacco down and your prayers up. Anyway, miigwech for everything. And, Apenge, amen. Miuminik, that's enough. Hikes, I just kind of want to stay out here now. It's so beautiful. Oh look, it's a Bigfoot. Hey, Sabi! Oh, you didn't see me. Yeah, there's a lot of Bigfoot out here. All right.
Okay, hey, BOOZHOO.
Hi, sweetie, it's Natasha.
Oh, hello there, honey. Are you ready to be teleported back?
Yeah, would you mind?
Sure, hang on. I'm just going to lock in on your coordinates.
Okay, want to teleport home, please?
All right, I gotcha.
Hey!
Welcome back. How is it outside?
Oh, it's beautiful. I saw God.
You saw God?
Well, I talked to him. Couldn't actually see him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, huh? Well, that's about all the time we have for today. I want to say miigwech bizendawiye to the BOOZHOO crew. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for stopping by, spending some time with us, even though NanaBOOZHOO is sometimes a little crabby.
I'm not crabby. I'm passionate.
Okay, he's passionate. Before I go, let's see what they're saying down here. Oh, wait, I think Jim's picking on you. I was learning, I'm not positive contained means out or just not spreading. Oh, I mean the fire? Contained sounds like we can stop worrying about it. Yeah, I expect it's a afternoon in Daniel time. Yeah, time for a nap, Daniel. Daniel Black says, I am Future Boy. He's from the future. What's it like in the future, Daniel? That's right, he's in a different time zone. Jim Dunn says, yeah, about time you take a nap, Dan. Daniel Black says, Jim, no time to nap. Wife won't let me. Yeah, get back to work. Oh, bummer. I'll take one for you. Yeah, let's take a nap for Daniel Black.
Okay, you want to take a nap even though it's only 9:30?
I kind of feel like you need one too.
I'm just going to go straight back to bed.
All right. Okay. Well, everybody, time to go. Miigwech. And we'll be back tomorrow at 8. Do you want to say, I will see you again? Gigawabamin. Minawaha. La-di-da-di-dum. My name is Natasha. Natasha Nindijanakas. Yeah. This is NANABOOZHOO.
Okay, miigwech kanawabige. Thank you for watching.
And this is Michael Lyons.
Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.
And I will see you again. Gigawabamin. Minawa. Oh, what? Sweetie.
You got it.